Althea Skye had mastered the art of smiling when she was breaking. If you passed her on 8th Avenue at 8:47 a.m., you'd see confidence, heels sharp enough to cut silence, a tailored coat, her chin lifted like she owned every inch of Manhattan. But if you looked closer, really looked, you'd notice the flicker, the exhaustion behind her eyes, the way her smile never quite reached them. Because Althea's life wasn't beautiful. It was loud, loud with expectations, loud with criticism, loud with a voice inside her that never let her rest. And louder than all of it was the silence where peace should have been. Her phone buzzed before she even reached the office building. Darius, of course. She hesitated, already feeling the knot tighten in her chest. Then she answered. "What?" she said, not bothering to soften her tone. "Wow, that's how you greet me now." His voice dripped with mock offense. "You forgetting who's been holding you down?" Althea closed her eyes briefly. Holding me down was exactly right, but not in the way he meant. "I'm heading into work, Darius." "You always heading into work. You act like that job is something special. They don't even respect you there." Her jaw tightened. He wasn't wrong, but he didn't get to say that. "At least I have a job," she replied. There was a pause. Then the shift came, the one she knew too well. "Oh, so now you're better than me." "I didn't say that." "Nah, you meant it. You always think you're better. That's your problem, Althea. You're ungrateful." Ungrateful. The word hit like it always did, sharp and misplaced. She had given him everything: time, money, energy. Pieces of herself she didn't even realize were gone until she tried to find them again. And still, it was never enough. "I have to go," she said quietly. "Yeah, run away like you always do." She hung up, not because she was strong, but because she was tired. The office smelled like burnt coffee and pressure. "Nice of you to finally join us." Althea froze mid-step. Her boss, Mr. Kessler, stood near her desk, arms crossed, eyes already unimpressed. "It's 8:59, she said carefully. "And that's cutting it close, isn't it?" he replied. "Some of us take this job seriously." She swallowed what she wanted to say. "I stayed late last night fixing your mistakes. I skipped dinner to meet your deadline. I haven't taken a break in weeks." Instead, she said, "It won't happen again." He gave a tight smile. "See that it doesn't." As he walked away, her coworker Jenna leaned over. "He's in a mood today." "When is he not?" Althea muttered. Jenna shrugged. "You just have to ignore it." Ignore it. Ignore the way she was constantly dismissed. Ignore the way her ideas were taken and credited to someone else. Ignore the way she felt smaller every single day. Althea sat down at her desk and stared at her reflection in the dark screen before logging in. For a moment, she didn't recognize herself. That night, the city lights blurred past her as she sat in the back of a rideshare, too drained to even scroll her phone. Her head rested against the window. How did I get here? She used to have dreams, big ones. She was going to build something meaningful. Be someone who mattered, live a life that felt full, not just busy. Now, she was surviving. Barely. Her phone buzzed again. "Darius, you still coming over or not?" She stared at the message. Her chest felt heavy. Something inside her, small, quiet, but stubborn, whispered, "Don't go." It wasn't loud like everything else in her life. It didn't demand or accuse. It simply invited, "Don't go." For the first time in a long time, Althea listened. "Actually," she told the driver sitting up, "can you take me somewhere else?" She didn't know why she chose that street. She didn't know why her eyes landed on that small building tucked between a laundromat and a closed deli. And she definitely didn't know why she told the driver to stop. The sign outside glowed softly. Hope City Church, Wednesday night service. Althea frowned. Church? She almost laughed. That wasn't her world. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. But still, she didn't move. People walked in, ordinary people, some smiling, some quiet. None of them looked perfect. None of them looked like they had it all together. And for some reason, that made it harder to leave. Inside, the music wasn't what she expected. It wasn't stiff or distant. It was alive. Not polished perfection, but something real. Raw. Like the people singing actually meant it. Althea slipped into a seat in the back, arms crossed, ready to judge, ready to leave at any moment. Then the speaker stepped up. No matter how far you've gone, you're not too far for God to reach you. She stiffened. Coincidence, that's all. But then, you might be tired of being hurt, tired of giving your best to people who give you their worst. Her throat tightened. And maybe nobody knows how heavy your life feels right now. Althea blinked quickly, looking down. Stop it. This was stupid. Just words. Just timing. But Jesus does. Silence filled her in a way noise never could. For once, the speaker continued softly. You don't have to fight to be loved. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to prove anything. Althea's hands slowly unclenched. You can just come as you are. She didn't cry, not fully. Just one tear, then another. Quiet, unnoticed, but real. For the first time in years, Althea Skye didn't feel judged. She felt seen. Althea Skye woke up with mascara still under her eyes and a strange ache in her chest. Not pain exactly. Awareness. The kind that comes after you've spent years pretending something is fine, and suddenly your soul whispers, no, it isn't. The night before had not fixed her life. Darius was still Darius. Mr. Kessler was still cruel. Her apartment was still small. Her bills were still due, and her heart was still tired. But something had changed. She had walked into a church by accident, and somehow she had felt found. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Darius, you really ignored me last night. A second message followed. Darius, don't start acting brand new because you got a little job and a little attitude. Althea stared at the screen. Usually, guilt would rise first. This time, something else came. Clarity. She typed slowly. I didn't come because I needed peace. The reply came fast. Peace? From me? So now I'm the problem? Her fingers trembled. For years, she had answered carefully, softly, apologetically, always trying to keep the temperature low so he wouldn't explode. But now her heart remembered the words from church. You don't have to fight to be loved. She typed, the way you talk to me hurts me. I can't keep pretending it doesn't. For 3 minutes, nothing. Then he called. She let it ring. He called again. She let it ring again. Then came the message. You're not worth all this drama anyway. Althea's breath caught. There it was. The sentence meant to crush her. But instead of breaking, something inside her stood up. She whispered into the quiet room, Jesus, help me believe I'm worth more than this. It was not a polished prayer. It was not fancy. But it was honest. And somehow, that felt like enough. Work was worse than usual. By 10 o'clock, Mr. Kessler had already rejected 2 of her ideas, corrected her in front of a client, and asked if she was too emotional to handle pressure. By noon, her stomach hurt. By 3, everything fell apart. The conference room was full when he opened her report on the screen. Althea sat straight, hands folded, trying not to look nervous. This, Mr. Kessler said, tapping the printed pages, is what happens when people rush instead of think. The room went silent. Heat climbed up Althea's neck. I reviewed the numbers twice, she said carefully. He smiled without kindness. Clearly not well enough. Her coworkers stared down at the table. No one defended her, not even Jenna. Mr. Kessler tossed the report onto the table like trash. Fix it, and next time, bring me work that doesn't embarrass this department. Something in Althea cracked, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. She looked at the report, then at him. And for the first time, she saw the truth clearly. Darius did not love her well. Her boss did not value her. And somewhere along the way, she had started agreeing with them. She had started living like mistreatment was normal, like disrespect was the price of being accepted, like love had to hurt. Her eyes burned, but she refused to cry in that room. Yes, she said quietly, I'll review it. But inside, another prayer rose. Jesus, show me who I am. That evening, Althea did not go to Darius. She did not stay late to prove herself. She went home. She took off her heels at the door, sat on the floor of her apartment, and finally let herself cry. Not pretty tears, not controlled tears, the kind that come from years of swallowing pain. God, she whispered, I don't even know how to do this. I don't know how to be loved right. I don't know how to leave what's hurting me. I don't know how to stop being afraid." The room was quiet, but the quiet did not feel empty. It felt holy. She reached for the small card someone at church had handed her the night before. She had shoved it into her purse without thinking. On the front were the words, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11:28. Althea read it once, then again. Then she pressed the card against her chest and closed her eyes. For the first time, she understood. Jesus was not asking her to pretend she was strong. He was inviting her to bring him the truth, the ugly truth, the broken truth, the truth she had hidden from everyone else. And maybe healing did not begin with having all the answers. Maybe healing began with finally admitting, "I need help." That night, Darius sent one final message. "You'll come back. You always do." Althea stared at it for a long time. Then she deleted the thread, blocked the number, and cried again. Not because she wanted him back, but because letting go still hurt, even when it was right. Before bed, she whispered one more prayer. "Jesus, I choose you, even if I don't know what happens next." Outside her window, the city kept shouting. Cars honked, sirens cried, people rushed beneath streetlights. But inside Althea Sky's small apartment, something sacred had begun. A woman who had been breaking was finally beginning to heal. The first thing Althea noticed was the quiet. Not the absence of sound, the city never allowed that, but a different kind of quiet. The kind that settled inside her, soft and unfamiliar, like a place she hadn't visited in years. It followed her into the morning. She stood in front of her mirror, brushing her hair, studying her reflection like she was meeting herself for the first time. No messages from Darius, no sharp words waiting for her, no apology she needed to rehearse, just space. And somehow, that felt both freeing and terrifying. "Okay," she whispered to herself. "Now what?" The question lingered, because walking away was one thing, but learning how to live differently, that was something else entirely. Work didn't magically improve. Mr. Kessler still spoke in criticism instead of conversation. The tension in the office still pressed against her like a weight. But something subtle had shifted in Althea. She noticed it around noon. Jenna leaned over her desk again, voice low. "You okay? Yesterday was rough." Althea paused. Normally, she would brush it off, smile, say she was fine. But today, "Not really," she said honestly. Jenna blinked, surprised. "Oh, I'm just tired of feeling like nothing I do is enough." The words hung in the air. For a second, Althea expected judgment. Instead, Jenna nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that." There was no deep conversation, no life-changing advice, but something about telling the truth, even a small piece of it, felt like progress, like breathing deeper than she had in a long time. Later that afternoon, as Althea gathered her things to leave, she noticed something sitting on her desk, a small, folded note. She frowned. She hadn't seen anyone leave it. Carefully, she opened it. "You came last night, didn't you?" Her heart skipped. She looked around. Across the office and near the windows stood a man she had never really noticed before. He wasn't loud, not flashy, just steady. He gave her a small, respectful smile and walked over. "Hey," he said gently. "I hope that didn't come off weird." Althea blinked. "The note?" "Yeah," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I saw you at Hope City Church. I didn't want to put you on the spot." "Oh," she said, still processing. "I didn't know anyone from here went there." "A few of us do," he replied. "I'm Micah." "Althea." "I know," he said with a soft smile. "You do really good work." She almost laughed at that. Mr. Kessler would disagree. Micah's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes sharpened, like he saw more than he said. "Not everyone's opinion carries the same weight," he said calmly. The sentence settled into her spirit in a way she didn't expect. Not defensive, not dismissive, just true. He nodded toward the note in her hand. "A few of us go on Wednesdays and Sundays. No pressure or anything. Just thought I'd say, you wouldn't have to walk in alone next time." Althea looked down at the note again. It wasn't flashy, just simple. "You're welcome here." She swallowed. "Thank you," she said quietly. Micah nodded once. Of course. Then he walked away. No lingering. No pressure. Just an invitation. That night, Althea sat at her kitchen counter, the note resting beside her. She had been staring at it for 10 minutes. Not because she didn't understand it, but because she did. You wouldn't have to walk in alone. The words stirred something deeper than she expected, because loneliness had never been about being physically alone. She had felt lonely in a relationship, lonely in a crowded office, lonely in a city full of millions. But this felt different. This felt like a door. And for once, she wasn't being pushed through it. She was being invited. Sunday came faster than she expected. She almost didn't go. She changed outfits 3 times, stared at her door, sat down, stood back up. This is ridiculous, she muttered. It's just church. But her heart was beating like it was something more, because it was. It was new, and new meant vulnerable. New meant uncertain. New meant she couldn't hide behind old habits anymore. Finally, she grabbed her coat. Okay, God, she said under her breath. I'm showing up. That's all I've got today. Hope City Church looked different in daylight, brighter, warmer, more alive. Althea stepped inside slowly, her eyes scanning the room like she might still turn around and leave. Althea. She turned. Micah. He gave a small smile, not too big, not overwhelming, just enough to let her know she was seen. You came. She nodded. Yeah, I almost didn't. I'm glad you did. There was no follow-up question, no pressure to explain, just acceptance. He gestured toward a section of seats. A few of us usually sit over here, if you want. She hesitated for half a second, then she nodded. Okay. The service began. Music filled the room again, strong, steady, real. But this time, Althea didn't stand with her arms crossed. She didn't analyze. She just listened. The words weren't complicated. They were about grace, about a love that didn't have to be earned, about a God who stayed when people walked away. Althea felt something loosen inside her chest. Not fully, not completely, but enough. Halfway through the message, the pastor said something that made her sit up straighter. Some of you are used to chaos, he said. You've lived in it so long that peace feels unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. Althea's breath slowed. That's what happens when you've been shaped by pain, he continued. You start expecting it, even accepting it. Her mind flashed. Darius's voice, Mr. Kessler's criticism, the constant pressure to prove herself. But Jesus doesn't meet you in chaos to leave you there, the pastor said. He leads you out of it, step by step. A lump formed in her throat, step by step. Not all at once, not perfectly, just forward. After the service, people lingered, talking, laughing, connecting. Althea stood awkwardly for a moment, unsure what to do. You don't have to rush out, Micah said, stepping beside her. Unless you want to. I don't, she admitted. Good, he said, because neither do I. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, not forced, not heavy, just easy. Can I ask you something? She said finally. Sure. How do you know all of this is real? Micah didn't answer right away. He thought about it. Then he said, because I've seen what my life looks like without him, and what it looks like with him. Althea looked at him. And it's different? He nodded. Completely. She exhaled slowly. I think I'm somewhere in the middle, she said. Like, I don't have it figured out, but I don't want to go back either. Micah smiled slightly. That's a good place to start. That night, Althea sat by her window, watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. Her life wasn't fixed. Her job was still hard. Her heart was still healing. Her questions were still unanswered. But she wasn't where she used to be, and she wasn't walking alone anymore. She folded her hands, a little unsure, a little hopeful. Jesus, she whispered. I don't know you fully yet, but I want to. The words felt small, but real. And for the first time, that was enough. Growth did not feel like peace. Not at first. For Althea Skye, it felt like tension, like something inside her was being pulled in 2 different directions at once. One part of her wanted to lean into this new life she was discovering. and another part wanted to run back to what was familiar, even if it hurt, because at least pain she understood. Peace? Peace felt uncertain. Monday morning came with gray skies and a heavier than usual silence. Althea stood at her closet longer than necessary, staring at rows of clothes that suddenly felt like costumes from a life she was outgrowing. "Why is this so hard?" she muttered. Nothing had physically changed. Same job, same apartment, same city. But internally, everything was shifting. And that shift was uncomfortable. At work, the tension hit her almost immediately. "Althea." She turned. Mr. Kessler stood behind her desk, expression already tight. "I need those revisions." "They're done," she said, handing him the updated report. He flipped through it quickly, eyes scanning for flaws. There was a time when she would have held her breath, waiting for criticism like it was inevitable. Today, she still felt nervous, but not defeated. After a moment, he set the papers down. "This is better," he said flatly. Not praise, but not rejection either. And strangely, that mattered. "Thank you," she replied. He nodded once and walked away. Althea exhaled slowly, small step, but still a step. Around lunch, Jenna slid into the chair across from her. "You seem different," Jenna said, narrowing her eyes slightly. Althea raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" "I don't know," Jenna shrugged. "Calmer, or maybe just less stressed?" Althea almost laughed. "If only you knew." "I've just been thinking about some things," she said. "Like what?" She hesitated. This was new territory, talking about faith in a space where it wasn't the norm. But something in her nudged her forward. "I went to church this weekend," she said. Jenna blinked. "You?" "I know," Althea said with a small smile. "It surprised me too." "Was it good?" Althea thought about it. The music, the message, the quiet in her spirit. "Yeah," she said softly. "It was." Jenna leaned back slightly. "Huh." That was it. No judgment, no deep reaction, just curiosity. And somehow, that made it easier, but not everything felt easy. That night, the silence in her apartment felt louder than usual. Althea sat on her couch, Bible open in front of her, a new purchase she still wasn't sure how to navigate. She had started reading earlier, highlighted a few lines, paused often, not because she didn't understand the words, but because she felt them, and feeling them made things complicated. "Love your enemies." She stared at the verse. Her mind immediately pushed back. "You don't know what they did. You don't know how they treated me. You don't know how much it hurt." Her jaw tightened. "This is hard," she said out loud, because it was. Following Jesus wasn't just comforting words and peaceful music. It was confrontation. It was truth. It was looking at parts of herself she had avoided for years. Her anger, her fear, her need for validation from people who never gave it. "Why does it feel like I'm being undone?" she whispered. The answer didn't come immediately, but the question stayed. Wednesday came again, and with it, a choice, church or not. Althea stood outside Hope City, hands tucked into her coat pockets, staring at the door. Last time had been emotional, unexpected. This time, it felt intentional, and that made it heavier, because now she wasn't just reacting, she was choosing. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'm here." Inside, the atmosphere felt familiar now, but still new enough to stir something in her chest. Micah spotted her again, offering that same steady smile. "Hey." "Hey," she replied. "You doing okay?" She paused, then she answered honestly. "I think so, but also, not really." He nodded like he understood. "That's normal." She blinked. "It is?" "Yeah," he said. "Growth can feel like everything's getting shaken up." Althea let out a small breath. Good, because that's exactly what it feels like. The message that night hit deeper than she expected. Sometimes, the pastor said, we ask God to change our situation when he's actually trying to change us. Althea stilled. "That doesn't mean your situation doesn't matter," he continued. "It means God is more concerned with who you're becoming than what you're going through." Her thoughts raced. So what am I becoming? Because right now? She felt uncertain, exposed, in between. After service, she didn't leave right away. She sat in her seat, staring ahead, processing. Micah eventually sat beside her. "Deep thoughts?" he asked gently. She exhaled. "I think I thought this would be easier." "In what way?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Like, once I started coming here, I'd feel better all the time, more peaceful, more sure." Micah smiled slightly. "And instead, I feel like everything I thought I had figured out is being questioned." He nodded slowly. "That's part of it." Althea frowned. "That doesn't sound comforting." "It's not supposed to be comfortable," he said. "It's supposed to be real." She looked at him, really looked. There was no pressure in his tone, no superiority, just truth, grounded in something steady. "How did you do it?" she asked. "How did you get through this part?" Micah leaned back slightly, thinking. "I stopped trying to control the process," he said, "and started trusting God in it." Althea let out a small laugh. "That sounds nice. I don't know how to do that." "You're already starting," he said. She shook her head. "It doesn't feel like it." "That's because you're used to measuring progress by feelings," he replied. "But faith doesn't always feel strong when it's growing." That stayed with her. That night, Althea didn't rush to distract herself. She didn't turn on the TV, didn't scroll endlessly. She sat with the discomfort, the questions, the tension. "Jesus," she said quietly, "I don't understand everything. I don't even know if I'm doing this right." She paused, then continued. "But I don't want to stay the same." Her voice softened. "I just need you to help me." Days passed, some easier than others. She started noticing patterns, moments where she wanted to fall back into old habits, times when she missed Darius, not him exactly, but the familiarity, moments at work where she almost shrank again, but didn't, not fully. Because now there was something new inside her, not loud, not overwhelming, but present, truth. One evening, as she walked home, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something told her to check. "Darius, I know you blocked me. We need to talk." Her steps slowed, her heart tightened. Old emotions tried to rise, but something stronger met them, not anger, not fear, clarity. She stared at the message, then whispered, "No," and kept walking. Later that night, she wrote something in her journal for the first time in years. "I think I'm learning that choosing God doesn't instantly fix everything, but it starts fixing me." She closed the journal, exhaled, and looked out at the city. Still loud, still busy, still chaotic. But inside her, something was changing. Not perfectly, not completely, but undeniably. Althea Skye was no longer just surviving her life. She was beginning to understand it. And somewhere in that understanding, she was beginning to trust the one who was rewriting it. There are moments in life that don't announce themselves as turning points. They don't come with music. They don't wait until you're ready. They don't ask permission. They just arrive. And everything after them is different. For Althea Skye, that moment came on an ordinary Thursday, which made it all the more devastating. The day had already been heavy, not dramatic, not explosive, just draining. The kind of day where nothing goes terribly wrong, but nothing goes right either. At work, Mr. Kessler barely acknowledged her. When he did, it was to point out something small she could have done more efficiently. Jenna was quieter than usual. The office felt colder, more distant. And for the first time in weeks, Althea felt herself slipping, not all the way, but enough to notice. "Maybe nothing is really changing," a voice whispered. "Maybe this is just a phase." She tried to shake it off, tried to remember what she had been learning, tried to hold on to the small sense of peace she had been building. But by the time she left the office, she was tired in a way that rest couldn't fix. The rain started halfway through her walk home, not a light drizzle. A steady, soaking rain that blurred the city and emptied the sidewalks. Althea didn't run for cover, didn't rush. She just kept walking, her coat growing heavier with each step. It matched how she felt. Heavy, slow, worn down. By the time she reached her apartment, her hair was damp, her shoes soaked, and her patience gone. She stepped inside, closed the door behind her, and leaned against it. Silence. Too much silence. the kind that doesn't comfort you, but confronts you. She dropped her bag on the floor, kicked off her shoes, and walked into the center of her small living room. "This is not working," she said out loud. Her voice cracked. "I'm trying. I'm really trying." The words came faster now. "I left him. I'm showing up. I'm reading. I'm praying. At least I think I am. And I still feel like this." Her chest tightened. Tears blurred her vision. "God, where are you?" The question echoed. Not poetic, not polished, raw, honest, desperate. She sank to the floor, not gracefully, not intentionally. Her knees just gave. "I don't understand," she whispered. "I thought if I came to you, things would start getting better. I thought I'd feel stronger by now. I thought I'd feel different." Her breathing grew uneven. "But I still feel broken." The word lingered. Broken. The label she had carried quietly for years, hidden under success, covered by strength, silenced by survival, but never healed. "I don't know how to fix myself," she said, her voice barely audible now. "And I'm tired of pretending I do." That was it. The truth. No performance, no image, no control. Just surrender, beginning to take shape. Minutes passed, or maybe longer. Time felt irrelevant. All that mattered was the weight she had been carrying, and the fact that she could no longer hold it up. "I can't do this without you," she whispered. Not dramatically, not loudly, but fully. "I don't want to just visit this. I don't want to just try this. I need you." Her hands trembled slightly as she pressed them against the floor. "Not part of my life, all of it." Tears fell freely now. No resistance, no shame. "Jesus, if you're real the way they say you are, if you really see me, if you really want me," her voice broke completely, "then I'm yours." Something shifted, not in the room, but in her. It wasn't loud, no sudden light, no overwhelming sound, but something real, deep, steady, the kind of presence you don't see, but you know. Althea's breathing slowed. The tightness in her chest didn't disappear, but it softened, like a hand gently resting over a wound instead of pressing into it. Her thoughts, which had been racing, began to quiet, and in that quiet, something rose. Not her voice, not her fear, something deeper. A truth she didn't create, just received. "You are not alone." Her eyes closed. Fresh tears slipped down her face, but these were different. Not just pain, relief. You were never alone. Her shoulders trembled, because something inside her recognized it, not as an idea, but as truth. Images came to her mind, moments she hadn't thought about in years, times she had been hurt, ignored, dismissed, belittled. Moments where she had believed the lie, "You are not enough." Her breath caught, because now, something challenged it. Not aggressively, not forcefully, but clearly. That was never true. Althea covered her face with her hands, crying deeper now. Not because the pain was returning, but because it was finally being seen. "I believed them," she whispered. "I believed I had to earn love, fight for it, prove myself." Her voice softened. "But I don't, do I?" The answer came not in words she heard, but in peace she felt. No. She lowered her hands slowly. Her face was wet, her body tired, but her spirit, lighter, not fixed, not finished, but changed. "I don't know what happens tomorrow," she said quietly. "I don't know how to do all of this." She took a slow breath. "But I trust you." That word felt new. Trust, not based on circumstances, not based on feelings, but on something deeper. Something she had just encountered for herself. The rain outside had slowed. The city still moved. Nothing around her had changed, but everything within her had begun to. That night, Althea didn't rush to clean up, didn't try to move on quickly. She stayed there on the floor a little longer, not because she was stuck, but because she was resting, for the first time in a long time. Before going to bed, she picked up her journal. Her hands were steadier now, her thoughts clearer. She wrote, "Tonight, I stopped trying to hold my life together, and I gave it to the one who actually can." She paused, then added, "I think this is what surrender feels like." The next morning didn't come with perfection. She still had questions, still had healing ahead, still had a life to rebuild. But something was different. When she looked in the mirror, she didn't just see survival. She saw someone who had chosen something new, someone who had laid down control and found peace in its place. And somewhere, deep within her spirit, a quiet certainty had taken root. She was no longer searching for love. She had found it. Healing did not look like a sunrise, at least not at first. For Althea Skye, healing looked like getting out of bed when sadness tried to hold her down. It looked like deleting old photos from her phone with shaking hands. It looked like whispering, "Jesus, help me," before answering an email from Mr. Kessler. It looked like choosing peace again and again, even when chaos knocked at the door wearing a familiar voice. The morning after her surrender, Althea expected to feel brand new. Instead, she felt tender, like her heart had been opened, cleaned, and bandaged. She stood in front of the mirror and looked at herself. No dramatic glow, no perfect confidence, just a woman with tired eyes and a soul that had finally stopped running. She placed one hand over her chest. "I belong to Jesus," she whispered. The words sounded small, but they changed the room. That week, Althea began making decisions. Not emotional decisions, not revenge decisions, obedient ones. She removed Darius from every corner of her life. His number was already blocked, but now she deleted the photos, the old messages, the playlists they used to share, the little digital hooks that kept pulling her back into memories God was trying to heal. Some memories made her cry. Some made her angry. Some made her wonder why she had stayed so long. But every time regret rose, she prayed the same prayer. "Jesus, teach me how to forgive myself too." Because that was the part no one warned her about. Leaving toxic love was hard, but forgiving yourself for accepting it, that was another battle entirely. At work, Althea changed too. Not loudly, not proudly, but clearly. When Mr. Kessler snapped at her during a morning meeting, she did not shrink. "I need you to redo this," he said, tossing a folder onto her desk. Althea picked it up calmly. "What specifically needs to be changed?" He frowned, as if her steady tone irritated him. "I just said redo it." "I understand," she replied, "but I'll need clear notes so I can correct it properly." The room went still. Jenna looked up from her laptop. Mr. Kessler stared at Althea. For one second, fear flashed through her. Then she remembered. Not everyone's opinion carries the same weight. He cleared his throat. "Fine, I'll email you the notes." "Thank you," she said. Her voice did not shake, not once. And later, in the restroom, she smiled at herself in the mirror. Not because everything was fixed, but because she had not disappeared. Micah noticed. Of course he did. He had a way of noticing without making a person feel exposed. After Wednesday service, he found her near the coffee table, holding a paper cup she had no intention of drinking. "You look lighter," he said. Althea raised an eyebrow. "Is that church talk?" He laughed softly. "Maybe, but I mean it." She looked down, smiling despite herself. "I think I finally stopped fighting God." Micah's expression softened. "That's a beautiful place to be." "It's also scary," she admitted. "Most holy things are, at first." She glanced at him. There was something peaceful about Micah. Not boring, not weak. Peaceful. He was not trying to impress her, not trying to own her attention, not trying to rush into spaces in her heart that were still healing. He simply stood near her like a man who knew love did not need to force its way in, and that made Althea feel safe. Their friendship grew slowly, a conversation after service, a walk to the subway, a shared laugh over burnt church coffee. Micah told her he worked in finance but loved music. He played piano for the early service sometimes. He had grown up with faith, walked away from it in college, then returned after losing his father. "I was angry at God for a long time," he admitted one evening. They were sitting on a bench outside the church, the city humming around them. "What changed?" Althea asked. Micah looked up at the darkening sky. "I realized God could handle my anger. He wasn't asking me to pretend. He was asking me to come close anyway." Althea sat with that. "I think I'm still learning that," she said. "You don't have to rush." That sentence nearly undid her, because everyone had always rushed her. Darius rushed her forgiveness. Her boss rushed her performance. The city rushed her body. Her pain rushed her healing. But Jesus did not rush her, and neither did Micah. One Friday afternoon, Mr. Kessler called Althea into his office. She prayed before walking in. not a long prayer, just, "Lord, help me stand in truth." He gestured for her to sit. "I've noticed you've been different lately." Althea folded her hands in her lap. "Different how?" "More direct." She waited. "I need team players," he said. "I am a team player," she replied calmly. "But I also need professional communication and clear expectations." His face hardened. "Excuse me?" Her heartbeat quickened, but she continued. "I respect this company and my role here, but I won't accept being spoken to disrespectfully." Silence. Heavy silence. For a moment, Althea thought she might be fired. Instead, Mr. Kessler leaned back. "I'll keep that in mind." She stood. "Thank you." When she left his office, her knees felt weak, but her spirit felt strong. That night, she went home and opened her Bible. She read Psalm 139 slowly. "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." She stopped there, read it again, then again. For years, she had let broken people define her. Too sensitive, too dramatic, too much, not enough. But God called her wonderfully made, and for the first time, she wanted to believe him more than she believed them. Sunday morning, Micah saved her a seat, not possessively, not publicly, just kindly. A small gesture, a quiet welcome. During worship, Althea closed her eyes and sang softly. Her voice was not strong, but it was sincere. When the pastor spoke about identity, she listened with her whole heart. "You cannot heal while still agreeing with the lie that broke you," he said. Althea wrote it down, then underlined it twice. After service, Micah walked beside her down the church steps. "Lunch?" he asked. She paused. He added quickly, "No pressure, just food, public place, friendly conversation." Althea laughed. "I appreciate the full safety disclaimer. I'm trying to be respectful." "I know," she said softly. And she did. That was the thing. She knew. "Lunch sounds nice," she said. Micah smiled, not triumphantly, gently. Like her yes was not something he had won, but something he was honored to receive. They ate at a small cafe 3 blocks from the church. Althea ordered soup. Micah ordered a sandwich and gave half of it away to a homeless man outside before sitting down. She noticed. He did not mention it. That made her notice even more. Their conversation was easy, not perfect, not romantic in the dramatic way she had once mistaken for passion, but honest, warm, safe. Micah asked about her dreams. No one had asked her that in years. She stirred her soup slowly. "I used to want to write," she said. "Used to?" She shrugged. "Life got busy." "Dreams don't die because life gets busy," he said. "Sometimes they just wait for you to come back." Althea looked at him. Something fluttered in her chest. Not fear, not anxiety. Something softer. Hope. That evening, she opened a blank document on her laptop. For a long time, she just stared at the page. Then she typed one sentence. "There was once a woman who thought brokenness was her name, until Grace called her daughter." She smiled, then kept writing. Weeks passed, not perfectly. Darius tried to reach her once through a new account. She blocked him without replying. Mr. Kessler still tested boundaries. She held them. Some nights she cried. Some mornings she woke with peace. Healing came in waves. But now, when the waves rose, she no longer believed she would drown. Jesus was teaching her how to walk again, not into the old life, not back into fear, but forward, into truth, into peace, into love that did not bruise. And Micah remained steady. He prayed before meals, listened more than he spoke, opened doors, but never tried to control where she walked. He made her laugh. He made her think. Most importantly, he pointed her back to Jesus, instead of trying to become her savior. That was how Althea knew this was different, because real love did not pull her away from God. It helped her see him more clearly. One night, as they walked beneath city lights, Micah slowed his steps. "Althea," he said. She looked over. "Yes. I like getting to know you." Her heart softened. "I like getting to know you too." He smiled, but his voice stayed serious. "I don't want to rush you. I know you're healing. I just wanted to be honest." She looked ahead at the glowing streets. For once, honesty did not feel like danger. It felt like sunlight. I'm still learning what healthy love looks like, she said. I know. And I need Jesus more than I need romance. Micah nodded. Good, I wouldn't want to come before him. Tears unexpectedly filled her eyes, because once she had begged for love from someone who only took. Now she stood beside a man who understood that love began with surrender. She whispered, "Thank you." For what? For not making me afraid. Micah's expression grew tender. You deserve peace, Althea. This time, she believed it. That night, she wrote in her journal, "Healing is not becoming who I was before the pain. Healing is becoming who God always knew I could be." She closed the journal and looked out at the city. The noise was still there. The lights, the sirens, the rush. But inside Althea Sky, something new had taken root. Strength, identity, grace. And somewhere in the middle of it all, love was beginning. Not as a rescue, but as a gift. A gift she no longer needed to chase. A gift she could receive with open hands. Because Jesus had taught her the most important truth first. She was already loved. Love, Althea was learning, did not arrive the way it used to. It didn't rush in like a storm. It didn't demand to be felt immediately. It didn't confuse intensity with intimacy. This time, love felt like peace walking beside her, and his name was Micah. It started in the quiet, not in grand gestures or dramatic confessions, but in small, consistent moments that slowly rewrote everything Althea thought she knew about relationships. Micah remembered things, not just big things, but details, the way she liked her tea. The verse she said made her pause during service. The fact that she got quieter when she was overwhelmed, not louder. He paid attention, not to control her, but to understand her. And that alone felt different. One Saturday afternoon, they met at a park just outside the city. Althea had suggested it impulsively. "I need air," she had texted him. His response was simple. "I know a place. I'll meet you there." When she arrived, Micah was already sitting on a bench beneath a wide tree, a small Bible resting beside him. He stood when he saw her. Hey. No pressure, no expectations, just presence. They walked for a while before sitting down. The park was quieter than the city, children playing in the distance, leaves moving gently in the wind. Althea exhaled deeply. "I didn't realize how much I needed this." "Most people don't," Micah said. "The world trains us to stay busy, not whole." She smiled faintly. "You always say things like that. Only when they're true." She laughed softly, then grew quiet. There was something on her mind. He didn't interrupt, didn't push, just waited. "I almost answered him," she said finally. Micah didn't need to ask who. Darius. His expression didn't change, but his attention sharpened. "What stopped you?" Althea looked down at her hands. "I remembered how I felt when I was with him," she said. Small, confused, never enough. Her voice tightened slightly. "And then I thought about who I'm becoming now, and I realized going back would mean abandoning her." Micah nodded slowly. "That's a powerful realization." "It didn't feel powerful," she admitted. "It felt sad." "Sometimes choosing right still hurts," he said. "It doesn't make it wrong." She looked at him. "Do you ever miss things God took you out of?" Micah thought for a moment. "Sometimes I miss what I thought those things were," he said. "Not what they actually were." That landed deep, because she understood it. She hadn't missed Darius. She had missed the illusion. The wind shifted slightly, brushing against them. Althea hugged her arms loosely. Without making a big deal of it, Micah took off his jacket and handed it to her. "You don't have to," she started. "I know," he said. "I want to." She accepted it, not because she needed it, but because she trusted the intention behind it. They sat in silence for a while longer. Not awkward, not forced, just present. Then Althea noticed something. Micah had bowed his head slightly. His lips moved softly. She tilted her head. "Are you praying?" He looked up, a little surprised. "Yeah. I didn't mean to be distracting." "It's not distracting," she said quickly. "I've just never seen someone do it like that, so naturally." Micah smiled gently. "It's just conversation." "With God?" Yeah. Althea studied him. There was no performance in it, no show, no need to be seen. He prayed like someone who actually believed he was being heard. "Can you pray for me?" she asked quietly. The question felt vulnerable as soon as it left her mouth. Micah didn't hesitate. Of course. He didn't stand, didn't raise his voice. He simply turned slightly toward her. "Is it okay if I pray now?" She nodded. Micah bowed his head again. "Lord," he said softly, "thank you for Althea." Her breath caught. No one had ever prayed for her like that. Not using her name, not with that kind of care. "Thank you for the work you're doing in her life," he continued, "for the strength she's shown, even when it's been hard." Althea felt her eyes sting. "Help her keep walking forward," Micah said. "Remind her of who she is when doubt tries to speak louder than truth." His voice remained calm, steady. "Protect her peace, guard her heart, and let her feel how deeply she's loved by you. Not just today, but every day." He paused, then added quietly, "And if it's your will, let me be someone who adds to that peace, not takes from it." Althea's tears slipped down before she could stop them. "Jesus' name, amen." When he looked up, she quickly wiped her face. "Sorry," she said. "Don't apologize," he replied gently. "I've just never," she exhaled. "I've never experienced anything like that." Micah nodded. "Prayer changes things," he said. "But sometimes the first thing it changes is us." She let out a small emotional laugh. "I think that's happening." Their connection deepened after that. Not rushed, not labeled too quickly, but undeniable. They began spending more time together, after church, occasional dinners, walks through the city where conversation flowed easily between laughter and truth. Micah never crossed boundaries, never pressured her into emotional or physical spaces she wasn't ready for. And that restraint, it built trust faster than anything else. At work, things continued to shift. Mr. Kessler still had his moments, but they held less power now, because Althea no longer defined herself by his approval. One afternoon, he criticized her in front of a client again. This time, she responded calmly. "I'd be happy to discuss feedback," she said, "but I prefer we do that privately so we can stay focused here." The client nodded in agreement. Mr. Kessler didn't argue. Afterward, Jenna pulled her aside. "Okay, who are you?" she said, half joking. Althea smiled. "I'm just not afraid anymore." And that was the truth. Not completely fearless, but no longer controlled. One evening, as Althea walked home, her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Her stomach tightened slightly. She opened it. "Darius, you really changed." She stared at the message. Then another came. "Darius, I don't even recognize you anymore." Althea exhaled slowly. For a moment, the old version of her stirred. The one who would explain, defend, try to be understood. But she didn't answer. Instead, she whispered, "Thank you, Jesus." Because he was right. She had changed, and she wasn't going back. Later that night, she met Micah for dinner. She told him about the message. "How did it make you feel?" he asked. She thought for a moment. "Free," she said. Micah smiled. "That's a good answer." There was a moment that night, a small one, but significant. As they walked out of the restaurant, their hands brushed. Althea stilled slightly. So did Micah. Neither of them rushed to grab the other's hand, but neither of them pulled away immediately either. The space between them felt intentional, alive. Then gently, carefully, Micah let his hand rest against hers. Not gripping, not claiming, just present. Althea looked at him. He met her eyes. "If this is too fast, we don't have to," he said quietly. Her heart softened. "It's not too fast," she said. And for the first time, she chose it, not out of need, not out of fear, but from a place of wholeness. Their fingers intertwined, simple, soft, right. That night, as Althea lay in bed, she stared at the ceiling, a quiet smile forming. Not because she had found a man, but because she had found herself. And in doing so, she had made room for the kind of love that didn't replace God, but reflected him. She reached for her journal one more time. "I used to think love was something I had to fight for. Now I see it's something I can receive when it's rooted in truth. She paused, then added, and a man who prays is a man who knows where his strength comes from. Outside, the city still moved fast, but Althea Skye had learned something sacred. She didn't have to move at the speed of chaos anymore. She could walk in peace, she could grow in grace, and she could love without losing herself. Not every love story ends at the altar. Some begin there, not with a wedding, but with surrender. Months had passed, and if you asked Althea Skye to explain exactly when her life changed, she wouldn't point to a single moment anymore. Not just the night she fell to her knees, not just the day she walked into church, not just the moment she let Micah hold her hand. It was all of it. Every small yes, every quiet surrender, every decision to trust God when it would have been easier to go back. Change, she had learned, wasn't always loud. Sometimes, it rewrote your life in whispers. The city hadn't slowed down, but Althea had. She walked differently now, not rushed, not chasing approval, not shrinking to fit into spaces that never honored her. There was a steadiness in her, not perfection, but peace. And people noticed. "You're glowing," Jenna said it one afternoon, leaning against Althea's desk with a curious smile. Althea laughed lightly. "I think that's just better sleep." "No," Jenna said, shaking her head. "It's more than that. You're happy." The word sat gently between them. Happy. Not the surface kind, not the temporary kind, but something deeper. "I found something," Althea said. Jenna raised an eyebrow. "Or someone?" Althea smiled. "Both, but in the right order." Jenna tilted her head. "What does that mean?" Althea paused, then answered simply. "I found God first." Work had changed too. Not because Mr. Kessler had transformed overnight, but because Althea no longer tolerated what once broke her. And eventually, even he adjusted. Not completely, but enough. One morning, he called her into his office. "I've noticed your performance has improved," he said. Althea almost smiled. "My performance was never the problem." "Thank you," she replied. He hesitated, then added, "You've also shown stronger leadership." That one surprised her. "Thank you," she said again, more sincerely this time. As she walked out of his office, she realized something powerful. She had stopped needing his validation, and somehow that's when it started coming. But her purpose? That was unfolding somewhere else entirely. It started with a single post. Late one night, sitting at her kitchen table, Althea stared at her laptop screen. The same screen where she had once typed her first sentence. There was once a woman who thought brokenness was her name. Now she had pages, stories, reflections, pieces of her journey, her healing, her faith, her truth. She hesitated. Her finger hovered over the post button. "Who am I to share this?" she whispered. Fear answered quickly. "No one will care. People will judge you. You're not qualified." But then, truth spoke louder. "You don't need to be perfect to be used." Althea exhaled slowly. "Okay, God," she said. "If this helps even one person, it's worth it." And she clicked post. The response wasn't instant, but it was real. One comment, then another, then messages, strangers sharing their own stories, their own pain, their own questions. One message stood out. "I thought I was the only one who felt like this. Thank you for reminding me I'm not alone." Althea stared at the screen, her eyes filling with tears. Because that used to be her, alone, or at least believing she was. And now, God was using her story to reach others. "You're stepping into something," Micah said one evening. They were sitting on the same bench where he had first prayed for her. Althea smiled softly. "It feels bigger than me." "It is," he said. She looked at him. "Does that ever scare you?" Micah nodded. "All the time." She laughed lightly. "That's not comforting." "It's not supposed to be," he said with a smile. "But it's worth it." Their relationship had grown too. Not rushed, not forced, but intentional, grounded. They prayed together now. Not every second, not perfectly, but consistently. Before meals, before decisions, sometimes in the middle of hard conversations. And those conversations, they were honest, about fears, about boundaries, about the future. Micah never tried to lead her away from God, only closer. And Althea? She no longer looked to him to complete her, only to walk beside her. That was the difference. That was what made it healthy. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the city, Micah turned to her. "Althea," he said. Her heart softened at the way he said her name. "Yes. I've been praying about us." She smiled slightly. "That sounds serious." "It is." He took a breath. "I don't want a relationship that just feels good," he said. "I want one that honors God, that grows us, that lasts." Her chest tightened in a good way. "I want that too," she said. He nodded. "So I'd like us to be intentional," he continued. "Not rushed, not pressured, but clear." Althea felt peace settle over her. Not anxiety, not confusion. Peace. "Yes," she said. And this time, love didn't feel like a risk. It felt like alignment. Months later, Althea stood in front of a small group at Hope City Church. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice remained steady. "I used to think my life was something I had to survive," she said. "Something I had to fix on my own." She paused, looking at the faces in front of her. Women. Men. People who looked like versions of who she used to be. Tired, broken, searching. Her voice softened. "But I've learned something." She took a breath. "Jesus doesn't wait for you to fix yourself before coming to him." A few heads nodded. Tears appeared. "He meets you in the middle of your mess and walks you out of it." She smiled gently. "I didn't find him because I had everything together." Her eyes glistened. "I found him because I finally admitted I didn't." Afterward, a young woman approached her, quiet, nervous. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Of course," Althea replied. "How do you start?" the woman asked. "Like, really start?" Althea smiled. Not a perfect answer, not a complicated one, just truth. "You talk to him," she said. "Honestly, even if all you have is, 'God, I need help.'" The woman nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. "Okay," she whispered. That night, Althea stood by her window again, the same city, the same lights, but she was not the same woman. Micah stood beside her, quiet, steady. "Proud of you," he said. She smiled. "It's not about me." "I know," he replied. "That's why it matters." She leaned her head lightly against his shoulder, not out of need, but out of peace. And as she looked out at the city, she thought about everything she had been through. The pain, the confusion, the loneliness, the healing, the love. And she realized something. God hadn't just changed her situation. He had rewritten her identity. Call to action. If you're reading this, and you feel like Althea once did, tired, unseen, stuck in cycles you don't know how to break, this is for you. You don't have to have it all together to come to Jesus. You don't have to fix yourself first. You don't have to earn his love. You just have to come, honestly, openly, willingly. Because the same God who met Althea on her floor can meet you right where you are, and the same love that healed her is available to you right now. Althea closed her eyes and whispered one final prayer. "Thank you for not giving up on me." And for the first time in her life, she knew exactly who she was. Not broken, not forgotten, not lost, but found. The end.